Mark, so good to have you on the show. Really looking forward to chatting. For people who don't know you, could you just give us a bit of a rough overview of who you are, where you work, and how you've come into your CMO role?
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for hosting me. I've had a great career so far. I've spent the first 18 or so years of my career in consumer packaged goods and marketing and what I call marketing adjacent roles, including work time at Procter Gamble and at Kimberly-Clark, running consumer relationship marketing, a lot of analytics, both in the digital and traditional marketing spaces. Moved on into healthcare related spaces. I worked at Medline for a little bit. I worked at a startup in the medical device space. And then I worked in more durable goods for a company called Homedics, or a brand called Homedics, here in the Detroit area. And then also worked in the B2B space quite a bit. And so I spent prior to coming to Hansons, I spent a few years at a company that focuses on safety and productivity gear for workers at height and industrial workers. And so I've really had a lot of different types of experiences in the marketing related space, working across both business to consumer as well as business to business kinds of roles, and in consumer packaged goods and healthcare, and now in the home improvement space.
Amazing. And just because the logo is on the top left of your screen, it looks so nice and lovely. Could we just start with what is Hansons? What do you guys do? And a bit more about the marketing setup there at the moment.
Absolutely. So I'm really proud and excited to be working with Hansons. I've been working with them for a little over a year now, a year and change. And we are in the home improvement business. So we replace windows, roofs, siding. We do we do bath and shower replacements as well. And we also work on gutters in people's homes. And we own the Hansons brand. We also own Paramount Builders in the East, which is in 3 markets in Virginia and in Jacksonville, Florida. And we're here to help customers love where they live and help make their homes the places they really want to be when they pull up every single day back to their home.
And I think it's, as a Brit, I was speaking to a colleague the other day where it's hard for us to imagine how many home services and home improvement companies there are in the US, because in the UK, there isn't the scale that there is in the US. But then also with something like home services, it sometimes doesn't have that same emotional pull, let's say, because people, if it's Nike or Converse, people have that emotional affiliation with certain brands that they enjoy. But often with something, maybe it could be, getting your bathroom redone or your roof, or that sometimes people don't maybe they don't choose a brand for that. They just go, okay, I need the service done. Where's the closest option? Could you tell us a bit about how you make sure that people pick Hansons instead of going, I'm looking for home improvements, let me just see, the top 5 nearest kind of vendors near me?
Absolutely. You're right. I mean, home ownership has been a point of pride for decades here in the United States. And it's one of the ways this country has helped invest in the middle class by making home ownership more affordable. And I think it's no small coincidence that because of that, people do take a lot of pride in their homes, and they want to make sure that they're proud of the place in which they live. And so at Hansons, we try to make that home improvement process as easy as possible. We deliver really high quality products. We focus a lot on the quality of installation as well as the product itself that's going into your home. And we want to make that process as easy and as fast as possible, so that we take that headache away from you, and that you know with 100% confidence that we're going to back up that product for life. And so we want to make sure that the roof that we're putting on your home is the last roof you'll ever have to put on, or the windows you're installing is the last time you'll ever have to replace your windows, as an example. And we back that up with a lifetime guarantee. And so one of the reasons why people choose Hansons is because they trust us to get the job done, to get it done right, to get it done the Hansons way.
And for people who necessarily might not understand home improvement marketing and how it works, how do you guys actually market and gather your leads, and almost explain to me like I'm incredibly stupid or a toddler, just because I think it'd be helpful, almost a very detailed breakdown of what it looks like going from, someone who has no idea from you to, okay, you've now just installed a new roof for them.
Yeah, it's a totally fair question, and it's very different in this type of business than it is in some of the other businesses I've worked in. Lead generation is important no matter what business you're in, but in the home improvement industry and a few others where the leads that you're generating every day really matter, and it's the health of the business being determined on a day-by-day basis, not on a quarterly basis. It's really, really critical that we're filling our open slots so that our salespeople can have leads to run every single day in every single one of our markets. And so the way we do that is we invest in a combination of what I would call upper funnel activities, things that we're doing to prime the pump, so to speak, to make sure people are aware of what Hansons is or what Paramount Builders is, what we stand for, why they might want to work with us, as well as some of the more tactical things. It's converting that demand into queries and inquiries into our company so that we can turn that into free quote appointments, free estimate appointments. We also purchase a lot of leads from third parties. And I think this is something that's particularly unique to the home improvement industry because we're a very fractured marketplace, if you think about it. Most home improvement companies do not have a national footprint, meaning we're not in every single market across the country. A lot of local and regional players. And as a result, investing in enough advertising to blanket the country it's not profitable, right? So you have to really hone that marketing, that media spend in very specific zip codes, very specific areas to get that return back. And as a result, there are a lot of other companies that are generating leads, unbranded leads mostly. And then they sell those leads to a number of different companies in the specific zip codes in which those leads are coming from. So we do spend a lot of money and time and energy trying to optimize that part of the lead generation process as well.
And so sorry to butt in, but could you, in terms of the breakdown of how much you spend on those certain leads, what proportion of your kind of overall marketing budget would you say gets spent on those types of activities?
Yeah, I think it can vary quite a bit depending on the market and the product line and also seasonality, the time of year. But there are times where it's maybe a third of the spend that we have is going to third-party, unbranded, aggregate generated leads. And there are other places where we're generating a lot through our own media and places where we've been around for the longest. So Detroit, as an example, which is the home of Hansons. We're in Troy, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit. We generate a lot through paid search, through paid social, through a lot of organic advertising, or leads are coming to us organically from our advertising. And we don't have to depend as much on those third-party leads, but they exist still here as well in order to really maximize our profitability. Over time, what you try to do is be less dependent on those third-party leads so you can be a little bit more in control of your own destiny. They also tend to convert better through the funnel, right? People that are aware of you, that are coming to you because they know who you are, because they trust you, they're more likely to convert all the way through the pipe. So we generally try to focus more on those in the long run, but it's not efficient necessarily to do that across every single market on every single one of our product lines. So we work very strategic with our partners. And I know you're going to ask some questions around data and analytics as well. And that's where really understanding how to read the data and how to leverage analytics in order to optimize that equation is really, really critical in our business.
And so it sounds like, let's say you're entering a new market, you almost start with the test and learn, a third of that going to, let's call it the paid leads from that new area, because you haven't built up as much brand authority. And then from there, you can start to even out that scale. So you've got more of the localized branding from Hansons helping fill that funnel.
Yeah, there's a lot of test and learn that goes on across the board, not just for those paid leads, but in other areas too. The more partners you work with, the more you have an opportunity to let the signal shine through the noise and figure out, how and where to optimize. But I would say, yeah, there's a lot that goes into how to convert those leads from, call them raw leads is what our partners would call them. We'd call them prospects, all the way through to a confirmed appointment, and then actually seeing that all the way through to a gross and net sale. What we find is absolutely true is that they're not mutually exclusive from the other media that you're spending. So let's say I buy from a third party a lead. Somebody goes to a forum, they say, hey, I'm interested in getting a quote for a new roof or new windows. We start calling that lead, or we start emailing and texting them. If they've never heard of Hansons or Paramount Builders before, they're a lot less likely to pick up that phone or respond to that email or that text. If they've heard of us and we've got a reputation that they love and that they are aware of, then they're way more likely to pick up that phone. When we get them on the phone, they're way more likely to convert into an appointment that then we can send one of our home improvement experts out to, and then they're way more likely to convert. So even though we're purchasing those third-party leads, the other media that we have in the marketplace, the reputation we've built, the 5-star ratings that we earn, they have an impact on those third-party leads converting.
And it reminds me of, although in a slightly different vertical, more those kind of legacy brands starting to do organic social. So one example is Blackstone, who John Gray, their COO, he now does kind of runs where he's kind of running around New York and he's talking about the latest quarter, their earnings, what they've learned. And the same, they also did it with when they bought Jersey Mike's. and they had, one of their execs eating a sandwich. And for them, obviously, a very corporate finance brand is very different to the image they usually do. But they're going, okay, we need organic social to help move us up the speed of culture. And I think there's probably some interesting parallels I'd like to get your thoughts on, where for you guys, it's home improvement typically organic social isn't seen or previously as a main channel. A lot of home improvement companies aren't known for being super active on organic social. But I think to your point where you don't want to be overly reliant on the paid leads media side of things, how are you thinking about making sure that you do approach organic social, especially in an industry where it's not known for being super active on organic social?
Yeah. I think this gets back into some of the ways that we've leveraged organic social at other businesses and brands I've been at, and trying to apply some of those things to the home improvement industry. One of the things I've been very fortunate for is the experiences that I've had on lots of different industries, and then be able to see certain things because of that experience and apply them to the industry I'm in now. I do think that you have to understand what social is, what people are using it for, which platforms make sense for different things. And then you have to add value on those platforms. It can't all be about, we're running this sale or come get a free estimate. It has to really engage with the consumer or the customer in the way that they want to be using those platforms. So if you're educating them there, if you're entertaining them, if you're making them feel good about what you're doing in the marketplace or investing in the community, I think we have to make sure we understand how to use that platform effectively. And we're in the process of developing some of those things now. It might be cause marketing initiatives that we're getting involved in and developing organic content as a result of the real great community work we're doing. We just, for example, were big participants and sponsors in the largest mental health festival in the world here in Detroit a few weeks ago, called ViewFest. And we were very proud to be part of that initiative. Those things make great organic content. We also have sweepstakes running every single year, and we love to give away home improvement services as a result of that sweepstakes. And so we like to engage with the winners of that. That creates great organic content. And there could be other things that help educate people. Like, for example, if you're not addressing a leak in your roof, what could happen, right? What's going on inside your walls?
Yeah.
And address a little problem before it becomes a big problem, right? So you have to educate people, but you have to do that in a very entertaining way in the social world, right? And that may be really hard to do if you're just screaming about your specials and your sales all the time.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think as well, people sometimes have a perception of what boring is. And if you say something like, puppies versus roofing, the perception might be, puppies are way more exciting and enjoyable, probably. But I think that what's funny is, if you look at so many of the videos that do very well on social, often a lot of them are quite mundane topics. They're just repackaged in the right way. So whether it's people going viral for doing a time lapse of cleaning a garage, or there's this company in the US called Clairol company, and they take ordinary objects and they redesign them. They will take a lighter, for example, and they say, this is an interesting way to redesign a lighter. And I think those types of things where, you're educating people, but maybe adding a bit of value or humor in roofing or bathroom remodeling, they're kind of ripe for being made exciting because they're not very saturated. If you try and do the same thing with puppies, it's already heavily saturated. So I think there's a bit of an edge there.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think we call it having to make a left turn. So how do you get somebody to stop going straight and make a left turn? So if you're doom scrolling, like we all do, if you just watch people for 30 seconds anywhere in the world right now, you're going to see them at some point pull out their phone and start doom scrolling. How do you get somebody to stop and watch the thing? Right. So is it watching 60,000 gallons of water pour from your ceiling?
Exactly.
Whoa, what's going on there?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Then you get into the education piece. Like, what can you do to stop them in their tracks and then hold them so then you can educate them?
Yeah, 100%. And obviously you spoke about the kind of other learnings from some kind of consumer brands and brands you were working with before you arrived at Hansons, which then has helped you understand social on those different platforms. Could you help us understand what you learned from those other brands on social, and then maybe some other learnings further afield?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what we were just talking about is how do you delight and surprise somebody, but you have to add value in that channel. You can't just make it a one-way message. How do you engage with somebody in that channel on the platform? And by the way, like people use TikTok differently than they use Meta or Facebook, or even within the Meta platform, Facebook versus Instagram, right? And so I think really understanding what those platforms are being used for, and then participating in that community is really, really critical. It's the same way we think about other media too. I would execute an out-of-home advertisement on a billboard differently than I might on a screen at a gas station, right? And so we have to understand, like, what are people doing when they're driving to work or driving on the highway versus what are they doing? They're filling up their cars, waiting for that gas pump to fill up their car, right? So I think we have to understand how people consume media, not just where they're consuming media, but how, and how do you participate in that environment in a way that makes it really engaging for them. I'll give you an example of learning this in one of my really early roles. I was working on the Clairol business. I was working for Procter Gamble, and we sell hair color, right? So we thought, okay, what a better place to sell hair color to help people understand how they look their best than on one of the early days of the dating apps, right? And so even when before they were apps, they were just websites, right? And so you'd go onto the dating website, you'd upload your pictures and put all your content in and all that. I'm like, oh, great place to advertise hair color, right? But what we found is one of the lowest performing things that we did. And we said, well, why is that? I'm like, because it wasn't fit for the task. So people, when they're in that environment, they're looking to find somebody else for them. They don't want to stop and go explore how to improve their looks at that moment, right? That moment, they're trying to just make their profile look great, but they're really more engaged in who else they're going to find, right? And so maybe they saw our advertisement, but they weren't going to click through and execute on it in that particular environment at that moment in their day. We had to find other places to engage them where they were ready to get help, get beauty tips, whether it's in beauty magazines or other things like that, right?
Yeah.
But until you do that test and learn and you start thinking about it from the customer or the consumer's perspective, you can lose sight of what's going to really be valuable for you. So I think taking some of those insights and applying it to the home improvement industry, you might be really, we have to really understand why is it that people don't engage or don't improve something in their home that they know needs fixing, right? When are they replacing their windows? When are they replacing their roofs? When are they replacing their siding or the bath and the shower? It might be that they want to go from a bathtub to a shower, a low threshold shower, when somebody in their home's broken a leg or become incapacitated in some way, and stepping over that ledge that gets them into the tub becomes a really dangerous event for them. And they don't want to dread having to take a shower every day, right? And so those moments in time are a good opportunity to help them make their home a safer place. And then you need the right message at the right point in time.
And I think the beauty example is really interesting, of something which kind of intuitively you would think would work, because it kind of it's using common sense. You kind of go, that kind of makes sense. But actually, by testing it, you actually learn we were wrong in that assumption. Could you help us understand some of the things you've done, maybe at Hansons, where you've thought, oh, this should work, but then actually after implementing it, then when you were looking at the reporting or the data or the analytics, you found that actually this is slightly unexpected, it's not working the way which we thought it would, and then how you adapted it from there?
Yeah, we have a lot of those things going on all of the time. We work on different types of messaging where we're trying to push urgency at different points in time to drive our promotions. And we find sometimes that we're emphasizing the promotion. We're spending less time on helping our customers understand how we're helping them solve their problems is actually what they're really interested in. They eventually want to make the decision to go with us, and then they want the best deal. It's not the other way around.
Tell
so there are times
where
we're leading with the promotion and leading with, here's a great deal that you can get right now. That doesn't actually perform as well as saying, here's how we're solving your problem. If you replace your windows now, it's going to help you with your energy bills. It's going to help you stop that draftiness before the winter comes. Our triple pane windows are the best in the industry, and they're going to deliver a better product. They're going to solve your problem for you in a way that you know is going to last forever. And by the way, if you act now, you can get the best deal of the year. That's a way better message than, hey, we can give you the best deal of the year, but like, I don't even know if I need your product, right? And so I think that's one aspect that we've learned. I think there are some other examples that really get into, like, how do we target the right customers at the right time and give them a product they can afford? One of the things that we're sometimes challenged with, especially in the current economic environment, especially here in the US, where consumer credit scores are down, people have really high amounts of debt, even though the stock market's doing well. There's this big bifurcation of incomes where there's a lot more people on the bottom and a few people at the top that are getting really wealthy, and this middle class is getting squeezed. That we have to make sure we're targeting our messaging and getting the right folks in that can afford our products, and then right sizing the solution for them given their economic profile, right? So that we can give them something they can afford and still be proud of and be happy to have in their home. And so we're doing a lot of test and learn there in terms of how to put the right targeting combined with the right messaging in place so that we're getting the right types of customers who are more likely to convert all the way through our funnel.
And, you mentioned the economic kind of crisis. And actually, as a result, almost marketing has to work more to find those right people that want to buy, because you can kind of do less of a spray and pray approach because the target is smaller. Could you kind of help us understand how you're using kind of maybe some AI tools to help with that? And then my follow-up question is again on the AI side, but I'll let you answer that first.
Yeah, I would say that, maybe I'll back up a little bit. We're using AI in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
One of the ways that we're using AI is in the content generation space. So we're using AI to help us create a larger set of creative so we can create more variants of creative than we otherwise would have been able to without AI. So that's giving us the ability to create messaging that is more likely to resonate with particular audiences as opposed to having a one-size-fits-all solution. So that's one way that kind of addresses the question that you're asking around how do we find the right customers, because we can then optimize that content based on the specific need or target. The other way we're using AI is to actually do our data analysis. And so we are certainly spending a lot of people hours in analyzing data, but the AI helps us do some of the data gathering, the reporting, the visualization faster than we otherwise would have. In my old role, and I led a lot of analytics teams in the past, there was a lot more manual effort. You had whole teams of analytics people actually doing stuff. We have now democratized that in a lot of ways and are enabling people all across our organization who don't have a data background, don't have a math background. We're enabling them to create visualizations from data that they otherwise would never have been able to do without an analyst working with them. And so it's that democratization, not just of data, but of insights from the data or gathering insights from the data is really a game changer for us. So that then helps us understand at all different levels in our organization, who to target, who to go after. We're using tools like that to help us make sure we're assigning the right leads to the right reps. You might have some reps, this is an obvious example, but you can imagine it getting really granular. Some reps might be better at selling bath than they are at roofs. So let me make sure I'm assigning the leads that are bath related leads to the rep that's going to sell it the best. That's kind of an obvious example. We can do that without AI. But if you start now looking at what about certain zip codes, what about the 4 different product lines we have, what about different lead sources, what about customers that are searching for certain things and not other things, right? You can start to get into the weeds really quickly, and being able to do that without AI becomes a really huge task, right? And so now we're using some of those tools to help us make sure we're assigning the right resources to everything as well.
I think the main thing, which is just, ultimately makes people's job more enjoyable, is the fact that I can, as a marketer in a company, I can go, great, I'm not reliant on waiting for the output of someone else. I can be an IC and go, great, I have this idea. Let me look at the reports and the data and then push that to something that's live. I'm not having to go, I have this idea, but I'm actually waiting on Jeremy, the data analyst, to give me some feedback on what I should be doing, what I should be A/B testing. I can go execute on that idea without waiting for other people. And that scaled up across the org 100 times has such a massive difference kind of impact.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think, some people are really worried about AI taking a lot of jobs, at least in the world that, in the way we're applying it so far. I don't think it's so much replacing people. I think it's enabling the people that we have to do more and to be smarter and more effective with what they're doing. We're still doing some of their stuff. We still have an analyst, in our organization that's helping us do some of the deeper dive stuff, who's helping prepare the data the right way. Like, we're still doing the stuff we were doing before. But now the folks that would have otherwise just not done anything in that space or just would have ignored it are being more data-based in their decision-making. They're being more thoughtful because they've had tools that help them have more information at their fingertips. And I think that's helping everybody be more effective.
And secondly, you've kind of answered this in part, but I would love to get your kind of further thoughts on it, where I think there's a bit of a disconnect between some of the things we see on LinkedIn or X about how marketing teams at any sector are using AI, and the reality of some of the difficulties sometimes of implementing it, or some of the problems which are happening as a result. To name one, something that I think I'm seeing a lot is you have kind of these internal divisions sometimes grow because you have some people that are way more AI proficient versus others. And that can lead to a couple of things. Sometimes it leads to people almost gatekeeping the tools or things they've learned because they don't want their boss to know that actually this, takes me 4 hours less to do this job, but I'm still going to, say I've done it in the same times. That's one very specific example, but would love to hear your thoughts on how you're thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are a lot of different companies at various levels in terms of size and complexity that you could say AI is leveling the playing field for. So if you're a smaller company that doesn't have as many resources, AI is leveling the playing field. It's enabling you to have capabilities that may have only been available to bigger companies. Some of those bigger companies are also really benefiting because they have the resources to develop AI-based solutions for things that they otherwise would have been able to do. And so they're even applying more sophisticated AI than that entry-level company is doing. I heard a statistic the other day on one of the talk shows I was listening to that said in a recent reporting period, I don't know if it was May or June, we had more applications for new small businesses than ever before in the history of this country, right? So in that sense, AI is enabling these small businesses or entrepreneurs to start new businesses because it's doing a lot of the stuff that would have been harder for an individual to do on their own without specific expertise across all the different elements of building a business plan, right? So I think there's a lot of relationships. The company I work at now, if you compare it to a Procter Gamble or Kimberly-Clark, it's considered really small. But we are one of the bigger home improvement companies, right? And so if you look at us in the context of our field, we're not that small. But in terms of the resources that I might have had available to me at a Procter Gamble or Kimberly-Clark, we have way fewer than we otherwise would have had. So AI is helping us do the kinds of things I might have not have been able to do at a company our size. But I would say it's enabling us to do more versus replace, right? And so the example I gave in terms of the variance of advertising we're creating, in the past, we just wouldn't have created that many. We would just spent money on a one size fits all or a few fits many kind of solution. And it just wouldn't have been as effective, right? Our targeting wouldn't have been as effective. We still would have done it, but we just wouldn't have been as good.
You joined Hansons a little over a year ago, and we spoke about in the prep call kind of the business was first losing money when you joined, and there's been quite a big turnaround. What have you done on the marketing side to help with that turnaround?
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much specifically about the financials of the company because it's a privately owned company, but I would say that we have been working really hard to accelerate the business and drive growth and build growth back into the business. I think there are a number of different things that we're doing differently now than we may have been doing in the past. One of them is just pure leadership. One of the things that I'm really bullish on and our full executive team is as well, is working together across functions and I'd say collaboratively between employees and non-employees or agency partners, working together to solve problems. One, we're measuring what success looks like. We're being able to read the data together as a team. And then we're working together as a team to identify challenges and solve them together, as opposed to pointing fingers across functional lines and blaming somebody else for things that may not be going perfectly. And that's just a totally different culture and attitude than sometimes some organizations realize. And so I think that mindset and that capability is game changing for us. We also, as I mentioned before, en route to that is becoming a much more data-focused organization. So we're letting the data drive the decision-making. We're leveraging data in order to understand what's working well and what's not working well. And then we're agile enough to make the changes to deliver against what the data is telling us is the opportunity. And I think that's a game changer for us. And we're doing that across all parts of the business. On the marketing side, one of the areas we've made a lot of changes is in how we're sourcing those third-party leads, how and where we're spending dollars to optimize that. And we're in a lot of different markets today. And so making sure that Detroit's getting the leads it needs across the right product lines where it's executing the best and making sure we're optimizing that return on ad spend, that equation looks different than it does in Tidewater, Virginia, or in Jacksonville, Florida, or in Omaha, Nebraska, right? And so understanding that it's not a one size fits all solution across each of the markets we're in is really, really important. The data enables us to see how do we optimize that. And it's changing all the time because we're in the people business. We have home improvement experts that are making home visits on a daily basis, and they're hearing and understanding customers' needs, and then they're optimizing the solution for them and designing the experience that they're going to need to be successful. But that's a people business. And you gain sales reps or home improvement experts, you lose them, they change over time. Some are better at some product lines, some are better at other product lines. So you're always trying to optimize that equation as a home improvement company to make sure that we're getting the highest return on ad spend possible.
Mm.
And having that agility is another aspect of what's making us successful now versus a couple years ago.
And also in that period, you've obviously scaled to a few more markets as well. And something that is especially hard, kind of, I think it's always been, is how are you making sure that your marketing material and content is like personalized to each geography, and rather than kind of being generic messaging for each, how do you make sure that each market has their own almost like custom gift and each customer feels like you're actually speaking to them in their market? Because I think you can really tell there are a lot of brands who, it feels actually, what they might say in Maryland is what they say in California, and there's a bit of a disconnect there.
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know that we're great at this today, but it is an area that we're investing in. So if I'm being totally candid, this is an opportunity for us, and we are actively working on that right now. In fact, we had an internal marketing summit just last week, and this was a key topic for us, is how do we make sure that if you're in Des Moines, Iowa, that we're delivering an experience that really looks and feels like we're part of your world in Des Moines and doesn't look and sound like you're in Richmond, Virginia, right? And that's true from an imagery standpoint. It's true from a tone and accent standpoint. It's true from how we talk about the products and benefits that we provide. The needs in Jacksonville, Florida are different than the needs in Des Moines, Iowa, right? And so how do we make sure we're optimizing that? It could be landmarks that we're showing. But the reality is we do run a bunch of local businesses, if you think about it. We have GMs in each of the markets. They are providing very personalized experiences. We get in product supply. We have different crews that are executing the installations in each of these markets. So we really are executing a lot of local companies as opposed to one big national brand that's trying to create a one-size-fits-all experience everywhere across the country. We're trying to bring the best of both of those things. We bring the power of a big company because we can get better products. We can get the benefits of having the technology footprint we have, so we can optimize our installation. We can make sure we're delivering really good messaging and communication to you. We have the right scale to deliver lifetime warranties and guarantees for you. So I think we bring that, but we also bring a very local feel. We have people on the ground. They're going to make sure you get what you need. We have project coordinators are going to help make sure that you're getting a 5-star experience when you work with us. We are a local company in that respect. And so I think it's really trying to make sure we're merging those two things together so our customers really do get the best of both worlds.
And it's slightly different, kind of the home improvement world, to, let's say, if you've got a business where, people might see your ads or billboards, but they don't necessarily get a physical manifestation of your brand coming into your home. Obviously they have you have your employees and, employee generated content, but mostly online. And I would imagine it's quite difficult sometimes making sure that you've got the marketing for the brand, but then also all those people, all those, the crews in different markets, they are also a walking billboard whenever they go into someone's home.
Are they wearing our brand name? Right.
Exactly.
You have these shirts. I've got a hat back here, right? Are they wearing?
Exactly.
And it's not just about wearing the brand, right? There's some marketing aspects to that. We want them to deliver that 5-star experience. So when they show up to your house, they need to look like they belong there. They need to look professional. They need to look, you shouldn't have a doubt about anybody shady walking around your neighborhood, right? You want to know that they are going to be delivering that 5-star experience. And they have to look and feel the part, right? And so it is really, really critical from the home improvement expert that's coming into your home. That takes a certain amount of trust right there. They have to build the right rapport with our customers. They have to listen. They have to be there to help deliver the right experience for that homeowner. And then we want to carry that all the way through the installation. We want to make sure that we're communicating well when we're doing final measurements. We're ordering the right product. The product's getting there on time. We're setting the install dates properly. We're taking proper care of your home when we're in the home doing the installs or in and around your home. We're cleaning up afterwards. We really want to make sure that end-to-end and that end-to-end experience is 5-star and nothing less. And so, it's hard to hold everybody accountable to that standard, but that's what we strive for. And we want to address any concerns if it's not a 5-star experience, because at the end of the day, that's our reputation that's on the line.
And if you look to the next kind of 6 to 12 months, you mentioned that, okay, how do we personalize different geographies to make sure that, people in California don't get the same message as, a different state? But are there any other areas or initiatives which are going, yes, we're aware of this and we kind of want to focus and make sure that we're catching up or ahead and making sure that we're better in this area? Could you explain some of those other areas?
Yeah, there's a few. I would say, in addition to the stuff we talked about around personalizing certain experiences, we do want to be great community members in the communities in which we work and serve. And so we are investing in cause marketing efforts that are going to be optimized for the specific regions and markets that we're in. And it might look different in Detroit than it does in Iowa or Nebraska or Indiana, right? It might look different in Virginia than it does in Florida. And so that's one area we're investing in that I think is going to help make a difference. We're also making sure we have the right products in place in each of the markets. We're now selling and installing metal roofs in places because that's becoming a big opportunity and a need for our homeowners. It's a lifetime roof that is going to withstand the elements. But if you're in Tornado Alley, that's really, really critical, right? And if you're in an area that is, that gets hurricanes, you want to make sure you've got a roof that's going to withstand the elements. Same thing with siding. So we've got 4 markets in which we're doing a hardy siding now, and that's an opportunity for us to expand. We've got really great products coming down the road that we're continuing to evolve and invest in to make sure we're delivering the right capabilities for all of our customers.
And slightly different question. So if you had to pick a marketing campaign from the home improvement sector that you've really liked or thought in some element, I want to magpie a section of that this or last year, and then with something within your industry, and then also love to hear an example outside of the home improvement industry that you've seen. Maybe it's more in kind of a different consumer, maybe, a Nike, or it doesn't have to be a big name, but a different type of brand. And why you liked that?
Yeah, I'll steal one from one of our founders. Our founder is a guy named Brian Elias. He started another company called Refloor, and I admire a lot of the work that they're doing in serving their customer base. They've really also been able to expand very quickly, and they've got a nice playbook on how to move into new markets. And I really admire the work they're doing to build their brand in new markets and do a really great job of that. So I like taking cues from them on what's working really well for them. And I think they really do deliver a great experience for their customer base. And they've just really simplified their processes to make sure they can execute with excellence over and over and over again. So I think within the home improvement industry, that's the example I would give. Outside the home improvement industry, I've gotten really involved in obstacle course racing and the Spartan obstacle course races.
Nice.
That in of itself is its own fun story, but I think it's an amazing brand because what they've done is they've created almost a cult-like following for their brand. They deliver. I've now been to a number of these. I started doing them last year, but I've gone to a number of different ones in different cities, from Houston to outside of Cleveland. There's some outside of Lansing here in the Michigan area. I've been to them outside of Las Vegas. And so we've gone to a lot of different Spartan races, and it's amazing how consistent the experience is no matter where you go. And so executing with excellence, and I think about this a lot just in terms of the logistics that they have to execute all the time. You have to create these courses that are not just challenging, but are safe, right? You have people really pushing themselves to extremes on these obstacles. And I never feel like those obstacles aren't safe. Right? In terms of is it going to fall? Is something going to happen to me while I'm on the obstacle other than my own capability? Right. And I think that's amazing in terms of their ability to execute consistently across each of these markets and each of these areas. And they're less than ideal conditions. Right. And that's kind of the point. And the brand is just really, really well done. And people that get involved with this Spartan obstacle course racing really fall in love with the brand and become obsessed over it. And so I think outside the industry, how do you create a connection with your target in a way that makes them just really love who you are and become an ambassador for you? That's really all of our goal as marketers, right? How do we not create customers, but how do we create fans?
And you clearly, love the brand and obstacle courses as well. What do you think? Could you help us on that? Is there a specific example of a thing they've done which obviously given you obstacles, but is there an example of a thing they've done which you think that helped me become obsessed with them?
I think everything they do points to the same true north. So when you first walk in, you go through your check-in process, there's a store there. The stuff they're selling in the store is tongue-in-cheek, interesting about the brand, and it's about hardcore exercise and giving it your all. And helping you feel like you've accomplished something. So the mottos they have on their shirts, the look and feel of the brand, the grittiness of it, all points to that. When you go and you start in your starting corral, you go through a speech basically that's very consistent across all of them. That's, that teaches you to be a Spartan. They create their own language. They ask you what your profession is. You're supposed to say aru, 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 and like really get into it. They kind of bring the newbies, who's a first time Spartan, and they kind of go through a spiel with them, and it really gets you in the mood, but makes you feel you're part of this thing that's different than everybody else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you really do feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself, and everything they do lets you feel that way. They have social followings. They post for the different, ahead of your race. There's on their Facebook page, they'll show you the course and they'll show you examples of what you're going to run into. There's all these fun videos about doing the obstacles and training on them and helping you be successful. There's a lot of support for you when you're in the middle of the race. They have very competitive heats. They also have non-competitive heats, and everybody really helps each other as they go through these very difficult things. The cause marketing piece is there. You always see wounded veterans that are participating, and everybody is helping them, through the course, because everybody just admires and respects these people that are subjecting themselves to these really difficult obstacles. And I think it's just incredible camaraderie that they build all the way through the chain.
No, I love that. It's funny, as you were saying that, it reminds me of Barry's, the gym group, and they do a similar thing where, if you've never been before, they go, if anyone's new here, and they can kind of show you around, and, they sell the socks, they sell all the merch. But I think there's also Barry's has a very love-hate, I think, audience base, which it maybe is similar with that brand, where people either love them or hate them, and they have very kind of bold, distinctive things, whether it's the instructors being really loud music. And I think there's that benefit of going to the extremes to find those pockets of audience like you who love a specific thing to the max. And also on a kind of psychological thing, I think that when you ask people in that group, have you done this before? Is anyone new? There's a feeling of I'm part of the club, whether it's Spartans or Barry's, from the people that have already done it before, because you feel this kind of sense of, no, I'm an expert, I've been here before. And so I think there's a psychological benefit of it. Makes the people who are already members feel even better about the fact that they aren't newbies. Yeah, which is just an interesting psychological thing. But a couple of kind of questions to wrap up. The first question is, apart from Spartans or Hansons, if you could be CMO of any company, which company would you pick and why?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one. I have to think about that a little bit. I really like to travel. And so I think a premium hotel brand would probably be right up my alley, where I'd love to be CMO of a premium hotel brand. I was a big fan of Starwood back in the day, and now they're part of Marriott. That might be a brand I'd be really interested in aspiring to be a part of down the road. I love creating these amazing experiences for people, especially when they're not at home.
Yes.
To feel at home, whether they're working somewhere and they want to be really effective somewhere, or they're traveling for leisure, and delivering experiences that they'll remember forever. Yeah.
Amazing. Love it. And what's your marketing hot take in the home improvement sector right now?
My marketing hot take, in terms of where the market's going, something
in terms of something that you think that you strongly believe in, that maybe other members of the home service industry would disagree with you.
I don't know that this is necessarily very controversial, but I think that we need to always be focused on our customers and solving their problems. I think at the end of the day, people are sometimes very quick to saying, what works for my company? How do I create more efficiency for my business? How do I keep my profit where I need it to be? But I think we can't lose sight of delivering on customers' needs, delivering on the benefits that they need in order to love where they live. And if we stay focused on that, the rest will take care of itself. I think I learned this early in my Procter days, where we lived by the mantra, consumer is boss, and we let the consumer tell us where we should be going. And I think keeping that same mindset throughout my whole career has always served me well. How do we deliver better customer experiences? How do we listen to our customers to know where to go? And how do we ultimately make sure we're taking care of them? And then the rest will take care of itself.
And another question, what's the question that you wish that I had asked you and I haven't?
I think one of the things that I'm a big believer in is developing people. And I think that can't be lost on leaders. At the end of the day, we're not just delivering on those great customer experiences, really important, but we're also managing people who work every single day. They give their good chunk of their life into what they do for a living. And the more we can make them feel valued and heard and understand that that is a part of their life, not something they do on the side to make money.
Yeah.
Not only the more effective we'll be, but the more we can help deliver impact on their lives. I believe in developing others, helping them grow in the careers in the way that is most important to them. And I think people leadership is really, really important, especially as we, in a very capitalism-driven market, are always focused on profits. Ultimately, we're still in the people business, right? Our company's only as good as the people that are executing on our business here. And investing in people is never the wrong way to go.
And if you could pick, you had a kind of magic wand and you could pick to enter any kind of new market with Hansons and you could have it set up right there, which would you pick?
Well, I grew up in Houston and I'm always consider myself a Texas boy. So I would love a scenario where we had a footprint in
Nice.
Texas, either in Houston or I love Austin. It's always been one of my favorite cities. It would be wonderful to have a place down there.
Amazing. Well, next year, the future campaign, I'll keep my eyes peeled. And final question, who do you know or think would be a really interesting CMO or CEO or tech leader to interview next?
I'm sorry, who would I?
Who do you know in your network that you think would be a really interesting interview next?
Who would be an interesting interview next? Yeah, I think there could be a couple that would fall into this bucket. There was somebody that I used to work with quite a bit who started a company in the Boston space. Her name is Melissa Lush. I think she would be a great interview next. I'd be happy to make that introduction for you.
Amazing. Well, that'd be interesting. I will definitely try to chat to Melissa as well. Well, Marc, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was so lovely to chat to you.
Great. Nice to meet you, Noah. And thanks again for hosting me here.